On this Sunday night, hope fades in flood-ravaged Texas. The rising death toll as the rescue mission slowly turns to recovery.
I'm looking for survivors. I'm looking for unfortunate non-survivors so they can have a final resting place.
Plus, the desperate search for a group of missing girls swept downstream.
It was nothing short of horrific to see what those young children went through.
The price and the push for lasting peace.
Make our government end this helpless and hopeless war.
The continued barrage as high-stakes truce talks take place in Qatar. Travel advice delay.
I understand the political sensitivities, but our first responsibility is to our citizens.
Why was Canada so late in issuing travel advisories amid increased scrutiny at the U.S. border? And swiping left.
I've heard people get really lucky. I personally did not have that experience.
Has the spark fizzled for dating apps?
Global National. Reporting tonight, Tracy Tong.
Good evening, and thank you for joining us. We begin once again in Texas, where officials are promising to keep searching for the missing after catastrophic flash floods on Friday. The confirmed death toll has jumped to at least 78, including more than 20 children. And 10 young girls from a Christian summer camp are still unaccounted for. Rescuers and volunteers are searching through broken trees, overturned cars, and mud-filled debris. U.S. President Donald Trump declared the deadly flooding a major disaster today to support state and local recovery efforts. And people in certain areas are being urged to move to higher ground.
There's rain still falling on the area. It's not going to take the same amount of rain that caused this damage to make the current water levels rise up, right? Because the ground is already saturated, so any rain that falls can be perceived as life-threatening rain.
Candice Cole reports on where search efforts are at and what we know about the victims.
48 hours after Friday's deadly flash floods that ravaged Kerr County, Texas, and the surrounding area, the search continues for survivors.
I've never seen tragedy on this level, the destruction that this flood has caused.
Top of mind, the little girls who were attending a Christian camp near the Guadalupe River, presumably swept away as the waters rose to 9 meters. These pictures showing the devastation left behind at Camp Mystic, bunk beds and belongings covered in mud.
We extend our sincerest condolences and prayers for every single family affected by this tragedy.
Sadly, of the more than 20 girls who had been reported missing from Camp Mystic, those who were found did not survive. Sisters Brooke and Blair Harbor, Janie Hunt, Renee Smadstria, and best friends Eloise Peck and Lila Bonner among the deceased. In a statement to NBC, Lila Bonner's family said, "We ache with all who loved her and are praying endlessly for others to be spared from this tragic loss." Meanwhile, everyday Texans are volunteering in the search and rescue effort.
I'm looking for survivors. I'm looking for unfortunate non-survivors so they can have a final resting place.
These women found an 8-year-old girl clinging to life among the debris.
All of a sudden we just hear somebody say, "Help, help." We asked her what happened and she said that her cabin was flooding and someone opened a window and she just flew out of it.
An expanded disaster declaration has been issued for Central Texas by Governor Greg Abbott, who has vowed that search and rescue efforts will continue until every missing person due to the floods is found. Federal emergency management teams have also been activated there to help with resources and recovery. Candice Cole, Global News, Washington.
Environment Canada is warning of thunderstorms across the prairies, Ontario, and Quebec. There is a moderate risk of storms developing today, with winds gusting up to 90 kilometers per hour and significant rain or hail. A thunderstorm on Saturday led to injuries in Quebec. She loves me. 5 people were injured as a tent collapsed in strong winds at an equestrian festival near Val d'Or. Festival organizers said today that all of the injuries were minor. And in Saskatoon, a man is dead and another is injured after a crane collapsed. It happened at a construction site in the city's northeast on Saturday. The two workers, aged 30 and 37, were rushed to hospital, where the 30-year-old from Fort Saskatchewan, Alberta, was declared dead. There is no word on the injury status of the 37-year-old. In northern Manitoba, a wildfire has destroyed 7 homes and forced nearly 200 people to flee. The out-of-control fire ignited buildings in Tataskoak Cree Nation, nearly 800 kilometers north of Winnipeg. The blaze started Friday and quickly grew, fanned by strong winds. Reaction continues to pour in after a Global News investigation exposed serious concerns with the federal government's vaccine injury support program. The program was created to help those rare cases of people who are legitimately injured by vaccines. But as we reported this week, only a fraction of the $50 million in taxpayer funding has reached those in need. Now, politicians are demanding action and an apology. Carolyn Jarvis joins us now with more. Carolyn.
Tracy, after our series first aired, we have heard from injured and ill people right across the country who are outraged and say they too have been battling with the vaccine injury program for months, sometimes years. Now, elected officials are speaking out saying something needs to be done about it.
This is a real scandal, and we can't let go of it.
Ontario Conservative MP Matt Strauss is a former ICU doctor and former acting medical officer of health.
Of course, I agree that vaccines are effective.
He says it's shocking that many ill and injured people turning to the vaccine injury support program say they are not getting the fair and timely access to financial support that was promised, as revealed in a Global News investigation.
When $50 million goes into a program and only $16 million of those dollars reach the people who were hurt that the government was supposed to help, yeah, I think there needs to be buckets of apologies from all sorts of places.
Other politicians are demanding action from the Liberal government as well.
They've got to get to the bottom of this right away.
One of the issues interim NDP leader Don Davies points to, the decision by the Public Health Agency of Canada to outsource the administration of the program to a consulting firm called Oxaro.
This is emblematic of a government that has become addicted to the use of outside consultants without proper oversight by the government. And so we're wasting hundreds of millions, maybe billions of dollars of taxpayer dollars.
I'm horrified that it seems that it's been handled just so very badly.
The risk of not getting this program right, says this medical ethicist, is a further erosion of trust in vaccines.
The public will see not only, are some people pushing back on vaccines, but even if something goes wrong, you're not going to get support. And that would be very, very problematic.
The Public Health Agency of Canada has initiated a compliance audit of the program, and the federal health minister says all options are on the table. But the ill and injured are still waiting. 1,700 of them have yet to have their claims processed. In an emailed response, the company running the vaccine injury support program, Oxaro, said this is a new program and it has adapted its operations to meet higher than expected volumes. It says all of its invoices reflect actual costs approved by the Public Health Agency of Canada. Tracy?
Carolyn Jarvis reporting in Toronto. Thank you. Well, peace talks are intensifying as Israel ramps up its assault of Gaza, including attacks around aid distribution sites. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu departed for Washington today. He's set to meet with U.S. President Donald Trump at the White House tomorrow, their third meeting in 6 months. And this one is expected to focus on advancing a ceasefire deal and the release of hostages. A delegation from Netanyahu's government also touched down in Qatar today for high-stakes talks to end the war in Gaza. David Akin has more on what's shaping up to be a critical week for the prospect of peace in the Middle East.
Rescue workers dig through rubble after an Israeli missile strike in Gaza City Sunday. The search ends with the recovery of a body, one of 80 deaths the Gaza Health Ministry said happened in the last day. For those in Gaza, a truce cannot come soon enough. It is a massacre in every sense of the word, says this man, who lost family members in Sunday's airstrike. We are civilians. We have no relation to anybody. The airstrike happened even as an Israeli delegation headed to Qatar for peace talks ahead of a key meeting Monday in Washington between U.S. President Donald Trump and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Trump told reporters last week he hopes to seal a peace deal.
There could be a Gaza deal next week, yeah. How optimistic are you? I'm very optimistic, but, you know, look, it changes from day to day. It's been changing for years. It changed. Since I came in, I inherited a very bad situation in many ways.
Observers hope for a ceasefire, but not much more.
We've seen a deal negotiated before, so this isn't the first time. It may likely mirror previous deals, so ceasefire for 60 days, hostage exchange over that time.
Netanyahu was under pressure from all sides in Israel. Protesters Saturday demanded an end to the war and the return of all hostages.
The only thing that should be done is to make our government end this helpless and hopeless war and to bring back all the kidnapped.
Most of the citizens in Israel, most of us, want stop the war and bring gas to this big.
But some far-right Israeli lawmakers who sustain the coalition that keeps Netanyahu in power warned that allowing aid in Gaza would only benefit Hamas. Hamas does want more aid as the price of a ceasefire, and it is offering to return 10 of the 20 hostages still believed to be alive. It also wants an open border crossing with Egypt and a timeline for the removal of the Israeli military from Gaza. Israel wants all 20 hostages returned, and its price for a ceasefire is the disarming of Hamas. David Akin, Global News, Ottawa.
The U.S. is ramping up pressure on its trading partners with a 3-month pause on global tariffs set to expire on Wednesday. Speaking on Fox News, U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said he expects a flurry of deal-making.
By telling our trading partners that they could boomerang back to the April 2nd date, I think it's really going to move things along the next couple of days and weeks.
In April, Trump threatened tariffs on more than 100 countries. Those were paused, but this weekend, he vowed to send letters to a dozen countries imposing some of those tariffs. Prime Minister Mark Carney has said he wants a new deal with the U.S. by July 21st and has threatened trade countermeasures if that doesn't happen. Information gaps for Canadians heading south of the border. Coming up, how the federal election may have delayed important travel advice. Well, as the American president charges ahead with his border crackdown, there are growing questions about Canada's handling of its travel advisory to the U.S. Global Affairs Canada says roughly 55 Canadians are currently in ICE detention centres. The federal government warned citizens to expect increased scrutiny at the border in April, shortly after the federal election was called. But documents obtained by Global News suggest the election campaign may have led to information gaps in travel advice. Taria Isri explains.
The UK and Germany both put out travel advisories before Canada, warning of increased scrutiny by U.S. border agents.
I think we're seeing here is that they were slow on this, and you can't be slow. You have to do your job.
Newly released documents obtained through access to information laws show bureaucrats were aware Canadians were growing frustrated by a lack of clarity, as reports emerged of the search of electronics and detentions at U.S. ports of entry.
Oh my God.
Last March, a Vancouver woman spent nearly 2 weeks in the custody of ICE. Canadians have been critical about the lack of information in the U.S. travel advice and advisories about the perceived risk of traveling to the U.S. at this time. It's from an email dated April 2nd.
We needed to act to fight the Americans.
Days earlier, Prime Minister Mark Carney triggered a federal election.
The department was really caught between a rock and a hard place.
The email states Global Affairs recognized its obligation to maintain accurate travel advice and also sensitivities to any communications during a writ period.
They didn't want to find themselves in the middle of a heated partisan debate.
The department recognized universities and immigration lawyers had already issued their own cautionary advice. Global Affairs eventually updated its advisory on April 4th, warning Canadians to expect scrutiny. If you are denied entry, you could be detained while awaiting deportation. In a statement to Global News, the department says it provided Canadians with up-to-date advice based on publicly available information.
I understand the political sensitivities, but our first responsibility is to our citizens.
The U.S. ambassador to Canada pushed back against the travel advice, saying there's no pattern of border agents searching electronics. Either way, Canadians are staying away. The number of tourists traveling over the border has dropped for 5 months in a row. Tracy?
Taria Isri in Montreal, thank you. Ahead, the downfall of dating apps. Why Gen Z is changing the game. Ozzy Osbourne and Black Sabbath took a final bow Saturday, signing off from where it all began in Birmingham, England. Osbourne has been suffering from Parkinson's disease and other health issues. Heavy metal royalty and fans converged on the city, packing the Villa Park Stadium to watch the Prince of Darkness in his final show. Well, some of the most popular dating apps are seeing major layoffs as relationship experts bring up concerns over the future of digital connections. A large part of that is tied to how Gen Z is searching for their romantic partners. As Kyle Benning explains, an increasing number of younger people are choosing to swipe left on online dating.
It's a process that can be exhausting for Canadians, setting up a profile on one or several dating apps with the anticipation of meeting a future partner. But searching for a match online isn't always easy.
There's a bad side to that, which is you don't know these people, so they're like truly strangers.
I've heard people get really lucky. I personally did not have that experience.
Ghosting is the most frustrating thing.
And the process of deleting and re-downloading apps has seen some younger people look to stay away from meeting someone online altogether.
They see, this narrative that it's easy, it's fun, it's cute to connect on dating apps, and then they look at their own experiences and probably a lot of their friends, and it's quite the opposite.
Last year, a poll conducted by the Survey Center on American Life found only 56% of Gen Z adults said they were involved in a romantic relationship at any point of their teenage years, as compared to around 3/4 of baby boomers and those from Gen X. But a former sociologist with Tinder and Bumble says this generation still has the opportunities to meet partners outside of technology.
Where they're still in school, they're still embedded in their local communities and institutions where they don't need to look for dating apps to find a romantic partner.
Last week, Bumble announced it was slashing about 240 jobs, about a third of its staff. And earlier this year, Match Group, which owns Tinder and Hinge, announced it was cutting about 13% of its workforce. The changes suggesting the platforms are looking for different ways of kindling relationships. But a dating and relationship expert notes these apps should be used as one tool in a kit to find a suitable match.
We have gone so comfortable without needing to be discomfort to get out of our comfort zone. And so that's why we rely on our phones. And I think young people don't have that resilience. They need the resilience to handle some form of rejection or disappointment and not give up.
Kyle Benning, Global News, Toronto.
Fans of the beautiful game witnessed some beautiful goals from one of the world's best players last night in Montreal.
Lovely into the path of Luis Suarez. Lionel Messi. Here come Miami again. Here comes Lionel Messi once more. Messi! My word, what a goal!
Lionel Messi deked out half of the home team before burying his second goal of the match. Many Montreal fans showing their appreciation even though their team lost. Next, the Montreal teenager going a cut above to help rebuild schools in Ukraine. A Montreal teen is putting his money where his mouth is to help youth affected by the war in Ukraine. He says it's his way of giving back to those in need. Phil Carpenter reports.
It looks great, man. Alexander Yakimir Martin is still fine-tuning his skills as a barber.
I feel like the hardest part is, it's really the scissor work almost.
Yet those are the skills he's using to try to help students like himself far away.
They're learning in bomb shelters, and they don't have the light under their head to learn.
The 15-year-old is raising money to help students in Ukraine. The idea came to him after he gave free haircuts to young refugees from that country a few months ago. Moved by their stories about the war, the barber decided to donate his summer job earnings to help students there.
I just felt almost selfish to not give back.
$10 from every cut he gives at the Dynasty Barbershop in Point Claire goes to the cause. The aim, to raise $1,000 by the end of August to help rebuild schools in Ukraine.
I'm lucky to be here in such a safe country and be able to learn with light and everything.
NGOs working in Ukraine say the war is having a massive strain on the education system.
And what we're seeing is 15-year-olds, or many 15-year-olds, are between sort of 1 to 2 years behind where they would normally be in reading, in math.
About 13% of the education infrastructure has been either damaged or destroyed. According to Save the Children, more than 570 education facilities were damaged or destroyed in 2024, double the number the year before. And UNICEF says there has been an increase in the impact on civilian areas recently.
So we've actually seen a huge increase in the number of child casualties over the last quarter.
Many groups stress that the ability to get kids to learn in a safe environment is critical to the country's recovery.
Many children now, they're facing toxic levels of stress, anxiety, and not to mention the learning loss itself.
It's why Akin Martin's project, small as it is, makes his mother proud.
It's a lot to juggle what he's doing, so it means a lot to everybody.
It's personal for the family too. They have relatives in Ukraine. Though they're safe for now, their well-being is often top of mind for Akin Martin.
Thank you so much for doing this.
Phil Carpenter, Global News, Point Claire.
And that is Global National for this Sunday night. I'm Tracy Tong. Tonight's Your Canada is Oromocto, New Brunswick's Wiener Palooza. It's hosted by the Atlantic Canadian Dachshund Rescue Society and features fun things like wiener dog races and a weenie watermelon eating challenge. Funds from the event go towards finding new homes and care for wiener dogs. Thanks for watching. Have a great night.